Meghan Markle has officially been crowned Villain of the Year, and the twist that makes this absolutely delicious is that the honor comes from her own Los Angeles backyard. While awards season is just heating up in Hollywood, the Duchess of Sussex has already snagged herself a title that no amount of PR spin can polish into something flattering. An iconic LA boutique has publicly dragged her name through the mud, and the timing could not be more brutal. Kitson, the trend-setting Robertson Boulevard store that has been a fixture in celebrity culture for decades, has unveiled their annual Hollywood Hypocrisy window display. This tradition started back in 2020 as a way to call out pandemic-era fakers and virtue signalers, and it has since become one of LA's most anticipated annual takedowns. This year, Meghan Markle takes center stage as the reigning villain, featured in a mocked-up magazine cover that absolutely eviscerates her public image. The boutique's owners have gone even further, branding her a Montecito diva in what can only be described as a savage roasting of everything she claims to stand for. The display does not stop at Meghan alone. She finds herself in rather telling company, surrounded by other public figures, accused of the same performative hypocrisy. California Governor Gavin Newsom, once a vocal Sussex ally who video called with the couple and defended their charitable endeavors, now shares the villain spotlight with them. George Clooney, another former member of their glittering social circle, also appears in the rogues gallery. Even Katy Perry made the cut. But make no mistake, Meghan is the headline attraction here, and the boutique has made sure everyone knows exactly why she earned this dubious distinction. What makes this particular call-out so devastating is its location. This is not some distant tabloid throwing shade from across the Atlantic. This is happening mere miles from her $14.7 million Montecito estate, in the heart of the entertainment industry she has been desperately trying to conquer. The people who shop at Kitson are the same Hollywood insiders Meghan has been courting for years. They are the tastemakers, the influencers, the industry players whose approval she has been chasing since she traded her tiara for a California zip code. And now those very people are walking past a window display that brands her as the ultimate hypocrite. The mock magazine cover on display features headlines that read like a greatest hits compilation of every criticism leveled against the Duchess. From her disconnect between her privileged lifestyle and her social justice messaging to the ongoing family drama she cannot seem to escape, nothing has been spared. The boutique owners clearly did their homework, pulling together every controversial moment, every tone-deaf decision, and every eyebrow-raising contradiction from the past several years. This is not casual celebrity gossip. This is a calculated takedown from people who have watched her antics unfold in real time from their own neighborhood. But the headlines splashed across that satirical cover are just the beginning of this humiliation. What they reveal about public perception cuts even deeper than the villain title itself. The satirical magazine cover Kitson created for Meghan does not pull a single punch. Every headline plastered across that display reads like a deliberate indictment of the carefully curated image she has spent years trying to project. The cover boldly labels her the Montecito diva, a title that perfectly captures the disconnect between her down-to-earth branding and her ultra-privileged reality. But that headline is just the appetizer in this brutal feast of public mockery. One of the most cutting headlines brands Harry and Meghan as the most unpopular kids in school, a reference to polling data that has consistently shown Americans souring on the couple. This is particularly devastating for someone who left the British monarchy partly because she felt unwelcome, only to discover that her new country is not exactly rolling out the red carpet either. The popularity that once seemed guaranteed when she first arrived in Hollywood has evaporated faster than morning fog on the California coast. Now she is being reminded of that rejection in the most public way imaginable, displayed in a shop window for all of Los Angeles to see. The cover also takes aim at her as-ever lifestyle brand with a pointed reference to her jam being manufactured in a factory 2,000 miles from her California home. So much for the artisanal homemade aesthetic she has been desperately pushing. The image of Meghan lovingly preparing preserves in her Montecito kitchen feels a lot less authentic when the products are actually being produced on the other side of the country. It is exactly the kind of detail that makes the hypocrisy accusation stick. Then there is the farmers market incident that made headlines earlier this year. The cover references Meghan flouting a no-dogs rule at a Montecito farmers market by bringing her pet along anyway. "Rules for thee but not for me" has become something of an unofficial Sussex motto, and this moment perfectly encapsulates that attitude. She allegedly called paparazzi to capture the outing, turning what should have been a casual shopping trip into another carefully staged photo opportunity, while simultaneously breaking the rules that apply to everyone else. Perhaps the most embarrassing headline references the now infamous Harper's Bazaar feature that revealed Meghan was announced to a room containing exactly one person. The grandiose introduction, the theatrical build-up, the dramatic entrance, all performed for an audience of one. It is the kind of detail that would be funny if it were not so painfully revealing about her desperate need for validation and ceremony, even when the situation absolutely does not call for it. The display makes clear that every carefully constructed moment, every supposedly candid photo, and every heartfelt public statement has been noted and cataloged by people paying very close attention. The mask has slipped too many times, and now her neighbors are holding up a mirror she cannot look away from. This boutique has essentially created a visual encyclopedia of her contradictions, and shoppers are stopping to read every single headline. But one particular accusation on that cover managed to spark even more outrage than the rest. Her Netflix wardrobe choices revealed a level of hypocrisy that stunned even her harshest critics. The Kitson display made sure to highlight one of Meghan's most jaw-dropping recent decisions, her choice to drape herself in $82,000 worth of jewelry for her Netflix holiday special. Let that number sink in for a moment. While filming a show supposedly meant to showcase warmth, accessibility, and relatable lifestyle content, the Duchess decided the best way to connect with everyday viewers was to blind them with diamonds and designer pieces worth more than many people's annual salary. The disconnect is so staggering, it almost feels like satire, except this is her actual life. This is the same woman who has positioned herself as an advocate for the underprivileged, someone who supposedly cares deeply about inequality and social justice. Yet there she was, lecturing viewers about gratitude and simple pleasures, while wearing enough jewelry to fund a small non-profit for years. The cognitive dissonance required to make that fashion choice while simultaneously preaching about humanitarian causes is truly something to behold. It is precisely this kind of tone-deaf behavior that landed her in Kitson's villain gallery. And the jewelry is just one piece of a much larger pattern of extravagance that contradicts everything she claims to stand for. Meghan and Harry dropped $14.7 million on their Montecito mansion, a sprawling estate complete with ocean views, multiple bedrooms, a pool, and security gates that keep the common folk firmly at a distance. From behind those gates, she produces content about living authentically and connecting with nature while most Americans struggle to afford a modest home in today's housing market. The picture-perfect holiday cards sent from a gated paradise while lecturing on inequality feel less like inspiration and more like mockery. Then there is the private jet situation that has followed them for years. Back in 2019, the couple took 4 private jet trips in just 11 days while simultaneously preaching about climate change and environmental responsibility through their Archwell Foundation. The carbon footprint of those flights alone contradicts every eco-conscious statement they have ever made. Critics at the time pointed out the obvious hypocrisy, but Harry and Meghan dismissed the concerns and carried on with their jet-setting lifestyle, as if the rules of environmentalism simply do not apply to royalty, even self-exiled royalty. One observer perfectly summarized the absurdity of their situation by comparing it to posting about minimalism from a walk-in closet. That analogy captures everything wrong with the Sussex brand. They want credit for values they do not actually practice, recognition for sacrifices they never actually make, and praise for authenticity that does not actually exist. The aesthetic of humility has been carefully cultivated while the reality of their lifestyle tells an entirely different story. The Hollywood hypocrisy display exists specifically to call out this kind of performative virtue, and Meghan has given them enough material to fill an entire storefront. But the accusations of material hypocrisy pale in comparison to the personal betrayals that make her villain status truly earned. The situation with her own family has reached a breaking point that even her critics find difficult to watch. The Villain of the Year designation lands at a moment that makes it sting even more than usual. This public humiliation arrives while her father, Thomas Markle, battles serious health complications, having recently undergone a leg amputation. The man who raised her, who paid for her education, who supported her acting dreams, is facing one of the most difficult periods of his life. And his daughter, the woman who preaches about compassion and family values on her Netflix specials, has remained virtually silent throughout his medical crises. The timing is brutal because it strips away any remaining pretense of the caring, empathetic persona Meghan has worked so hard to construct. She films cooking shows about bringing people together, about the importance of human connection, about creating warmth and belonging through shared experiences. Yet her own father sits in a hospital room without so much as a public acknowledgement from his famous daughter. The contradiction between her televised message and her real-life actions could not be more glaring. Reports suggest Meghan claims to have reached out to her father, but those close to Thomas tell a very different story. The pattern of silence during his previous health emergencies, including a stroke that left him hospitalized, makes any supposed reconciliation attempts feel hollow at best. Critics have pointed out the peculiar reality that random strangers on the internet have shown more concern for Thomas Markle's well-being than his own daughter has publicly demonstrated. One particularly revealing moment occurred during her Netflix special, when Meghan asked tennis star Naomi Osaka about her favorite holiday pastime. Naomi's answer was simple and sincere: family. The word hung in the air like an accusation, and those watching closely noticed Meghan's reaction, Her jaw visibly tightened as she processed an answer that inadvertently highlighted everything wrong with her own situation. She quickly pivoted the conversation toward rest and relaxation, steering away from the family topic as fast as humanly possible. That moment captured something essential about who Meghan really is beneath the polished exterior. She cannot engage authentically with the concept of family because her own family relationships lie in ruins, destruction that many believe she herself orchestrated. The alleged paparazzi set up before her wedding, where her father was photographed in staged situations that later embarrassed him publicly, severed their relationship at a critical moment. Whether or not she directly arranged those photos, the fact that she used the resulting controversy as justification to cut him off entirely speaks volumes. She preaches family unity on streaming platforms while her actual family tree looks like a battlefield. Both the Markle side and the Windsor side have been alienated, dismissed, and publicly criticized. Her destruction to lineage knows no bounds, as one observer put it. She has burned bridges with virtually everyone connected to her by blood or marriage, then turns around and films heartwarming content about togetherness and connection. But Kitson did not just stumble upon this narrative. The boutique has been building a case against the Sussexes for years, documenting their hypocrisy with the dedication of investigative journalists. This villain of the year crowning is not some sudden attack born from a single controversy. Kitson has been methodically documenting Sussex hypocrisy for years, building a case against the couple with the patience of prosecutors assembling evidence for trial. The boutique's owners have watched Harry and Meghan operate in their own backyard and clearly decided long ago that someone needed to hold them accountable. This latest display is simply the most devastating chapter in an ongoing saga of public criticism. Back in 2023, Kitson already roasted the couple in their Hollywood hypocrisy window for what they termed eco-faux pas. Harry and Meghan were featured as prime examples of private jet preachers, celebrities who lecture the public about environmental responsibility while personally contributing more carbon emissions in a single trip than most families produce in a year. The display became a holiday hit right in the Sussexes' own LA neighborhood, with shoppers stopping to photograph the takedown and share it across social media. The message was clear even then. The people who actually live near the couple were not buying what they were selling. Store founder Fraser Ross has spoken publicly about his commitment to accountability, even discussing it on podcasts where he explained his philosophy of calling out celebrity hypocrisy, regardless of how powerful the targets might be. He reportedly refused to stock anti-royal books like Endgame, the controversial publication that sparked legal battles and accusations of fabricated stories. The decision signaled that while Kitson was happy to criticize the Sussexes, they were not interested in profiting from attacks on the broader royal family. It was a nuanced position that distinguished legitimate criticism from tabloid exploitation. Kitson has maintained what observers describe as a low-key anti-Sussex stance ever since the couple relocated to California. The boutique has blended retail with pointed jabs, creating merchandise and displays that resonate with customers tired of the constant Sussex drama playing out in their community. The approach has clearly worked commercially, proving there is a market for calling out Hollywood hypocrisy, even when the hypocrites in question have powerful connections and expensive lawyers. One particularly telling detail involves the Team Harry and Meghan versus Team William and Catherine, merchandise the store sold during the height of the royal family rift. Reports indicated that the William and Catherine shirts consistently outsold the Sussex versions, a small but significant indicator of where public sympathy actually lies. Even in supposedly progressive Los Angeles, even among the celebrity-adjacent shoppers who frequent Robertson Boulevard, the Sussexes were losing the popularity contest. The store's sustained criticism demonstrates that this is not about momentary controversy or viral outrage. This represents a genuine shift in how the Sussexes are perceived in the very community they chose as their new home. They left behind a palace and a country to find acceptance in Hollywood, only to discover that the entertainment industry has its own ways of expressing rejection. But Meghan's inclusion in this year's display becomes even more interesting when you examine who she is standing alongside. Her fellow villains tell a story all their own. Among the faces featured in Kitson's Hollywood hypocrisy display, one stands out for what it reveals about Meghan's crumbling network of powerful allies. California Governor Gavin Newsom, once a vocal supporter and defender of the Sussex brand, now shares the villain spotlight alongside the woman he championed. The friend has become a fellow pariah, and the irony is almost too perfect to ignore. Their parallel downfalls suggest that proximity to Meghan might actually be toxic to public perception. Newsom's Sussex alliance runs deep. Back in 2021, he participated in video calls with the couple, lending his political credibility to their various causes and initiatives. When Archewell faced criticism and controversy in 2024, the governor stepped up to defend the organization, praising what critics dismissed as wildly overhyped charity work. He positioned himself as a believer in their mission, a politician willing to stake his reputation on their authenticity. That bet is looking worse by the day. Rumors have swirled about potential cameos in Meghan's cooking show, suggesting the relationship extended beyond mere political alliance into genuine social connection. As her Montecito neighbor and Netflix collaborator, Newsom represents exactly the kind of powerful friend Meghan has cultivated since arriving in California: progressive credentials, media savvy, and a willingness to publicly vouch for her character. Yet now they find themselves displayed side by side as examples of everything wrong with Hollywood elite culture. The inclusion of both figures highlights a specific type of hypocrisy that Kitson has made its mission to expose. Both Meghan and Newsom preach progressive values while living in extraordinary luxury. Both position themselves as champions of the underprivileged while enjoying privileges most people cannot even imagine. Both lecture about sacrifice and service while making very few actual sacrifices themselves. The parallel between their public messaging and private realities is what landed them in the same window display. Newsom's own policy flip-flops and controversial decisions during his governorship gave Kitson plenty of material to work with. Combined with his association with the Sussexes, he became an obvious choice for the hypocrisy gallery. From charity cheerleaders to villain buddies, the trajectory of their public friendship demonstrates that even A-list allies cannot escape scrutiny when the contradictions become too obvious to ignore. The display sends a clear message to anyone still considering aligning themselves with the Sussex brand. Association comes with risk. The people watching are taking notes, and eventually those notes become window displays for all of Los Angeles to see. Meghan's circle of influential friends has been shrinking steadily, and moments like this explain why. Nobody wants to end up in the rogues gallery simply because they posed for photographs with the Duchess. George Clooney's presence in the same display adds another layer to this narrative of alliance turned liability. The Clooneys were once considered close friends of Harry and Meghan, attending the royal wedding and hosting them at their Italian villa. Now even that connection seems insufficient to protect reputations from the hypocrisy label. Meanwhile, Meghan's professional ventures are collapsing just as spectacularly as her social standing. While Meghan collects villain titles from boutique window displays, her lifestyle brand, As Ever, is hemorrhaging whatever momentum it briefly possessed. Recent data reveals that website traffic has dwindled to embarrassing levels, failing to crack even 200,000 page views per month. That number sounds reasonable until you consider what it actually represents. Those views include repeat visits from the same users, meaning the actual number of unique visitors is significantly lower, and the percentage of visitors who actually complete a purchase is a tiny fraction of that already disappointing figure. For context, Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop generates well over 800,000 monthly page views. The comparison is brutal but necessary because Meghan clearly positioned As Ever to compete in that same lifestyle brand space. She wanted to be the next Goop, the next celebrity wellness empire, the next household name in aspirational living. Instead, she is barely registering as a blip on the e-commerce radar, while Goop continues to dominate the market she hoped to conquer. The truly devastating detail is that these numbers represent performance during the holiday season. This was supposed to be the moment that saved the brand. Holiday shopping was meant to provide the sales spike that would validate the entire enterprise and prove the doubters wrong. Instead, the numbers have continued their downward trajectory even as consumers flooded online stores looking for gifts. If the holidays cannot save As Ever, nothing can. Netflix has delivered another blow by declining to carry her products in their brick-and-mortar stores. The streaming giant invested heavily in her content but apparently sees no value in extending that partnership to retail. The rejection stings because Meghan seemed to be counting on Netflix to do much of the heavy lifting for product distribution. Without that support, she has been forced into increasingly desperate measures to move inventory. Her solution has been pop-up shops at locations like Godmother's Bookstore and Soho House, hoping that targeted placement in friendly venues might generate sales that online traffic cannot. Pop-ups can work for brands with massive cultural relevance and devoted followings, but they rarely save struggling businesses with neither of those assets. The strategy feels less like smart marketing and more like a last resort from someone running out of options. One of these pop-ups generated its own controversy when wine bottles appeared on display tables alongside other merchandise. An investigation revealed that Godmothers had applied for an alcohol license in June 2024, but approval had not been granted by the time of the November 2025 sales event. California law requires proper licensing to sell alcohol, including bottled wine. When confronted, representatives claimed the bottles were merely display items filled with water. Photographs clearly showed sealed bottles full of rosé, suggesting yet another instance where the truth and the Sussex version of events failed to align. The pop-up controversies are symptoms of a larger disease infecting the entire As Ever operation. The business model itself was fundamentally broken from the very beginning. The collapse of As Ever cannot be blamed on bad luck or market conditions. The problems were baked into the concept from its inception, a fundamentally flawed business model that required required perfect execution Meghan proved incapable of delivering. The entire strategy depended on integration between her Netflix show and her product line, a synergy that would allow each to promote the other in a seamless lifestyle ecosystem. That vision shattered before the first episode even aired. The original concept was elegant in theory. With love, Meghan would showcase products from her brand in organic, non-pushy ways throughout each episode. Viewers would see Meghan using her jams, her homewares, her carefully curated lifestyle goods in natural settings. They would want to recreate that aesthetic in their own homes and conveniently find everything available for purchase. The show would drive sales, the sales would validate the show, and the whole operation would build momentum with each passing week. Instead, Meghan delivered chaos. The branding went through a messy transition from American Riviera Orchard to As Ever, confusing potential customers and diluting whatever brand recognition she had managed to build. The timeline slipped as she struggled to finalize products, packaging, and distribution. Netflix, having invested significant resources in the content, pushed forward with their release schedule, regardless of whether the product side was ready. The streaming giant was not going to delay their programming just because Meghan could not get her jam jars sorted. The result was a catastrophic missed opportunity. When With Love Meghan finally premiered, the products that were supposed to be featured throughout were not ready for market. The entire cross-promotional strategy collapsed because there was nothing to promote. Viewers who might have been inspired to purchase had nowhere to direct that impulse. By the time As Ever products actually became available, the show's moment had passed, and public interest had moved on to other things. Beyond the logistical failures, the products themselves failed to justify their existence. Reviews have been mediocre at best, with critics noting that nothing about the As Ever line stands out from countless similar offerings already available. The goods are not exceptional, not innovative, not priced competitively. They exist solely because of Meghan's celebrity, offering no other reason for consumers to choose them over established alternatives. This leaves the brand entirely dependent on Meghan's personal appeal, and that is precisely where the math stops working. Celebrity lifestyle brands require their founders to possess genuine star power, authentic charisma, and the ability to make audiences feel connected to their world. Meghan has none of these qualities in sufficient quantity. Her public persona reads as calculated rather than genuine. Her lifestyle feels aspirational in alienating rather than inspirational ways, and her constant controversies undermine any warmth she attempts to project. She lacks the creative vision to make products people actually want, and the salesmanship to convince them otherwise. Not everyone can carry a brand, and Meghan is learning that lesson in the most expensive way possible. But her business failures reflect something larger happening in Hollywood right now. The Kitson window display represents something far more significant than one boutique's opinion. It signals a fundamental shift in how Hollywood views Meghan Markle, a collective exhaustion with her narrative that has been building since the Spare backlash. The entertainment industry that once welcomed her as an exciting new addition to its celebrity ecosystem has grown tired of the constant drama, the victimhood positioning, and the relentless controversies that follow her everywhere she goes. Los Angeles created the Hollywood Hypocrisy display specifically to call out virtue signalers, people who preach values they do not practice, and lecture others from positions of extraordinary privilege. Meghan has become the poster child for exactly that kind of performative activism. Every humanitarian statement she makes gets undercut by her lifestyle choices. Every call for compassion gets contradicted by her treatment of family members. The industry watches, takes notes, and eventually those notes become public mockery. George Clooney's presence in the same display adds another dimension to this rejection. The Clooneys were once among Harry and Meghan's most prominent celebrity friends, attending their wedding and welcoming them into elite social circles. That friendship has visibly cooled over the years, and now George finds himself in the same rogues gallery. Whether his inclusion represents guilt by association or his own independent controversies, the optics are terrible for anyone still hoping the Sussex brand carries social currency. Observers have noted that Meghan never quite mastered the art of authentic connection that successful celebrities seem to possess naturally. Her public appearances feel rehearsed rather than spontaneous. Her emotional moments read as performed rather than genuine. One critic described her as someone whose superego is always fixated on how she is coming across, constantly monitoring her angles, her expressions, her projected emotions rather than actually being present in any given moment. She is simply not that good of an actress, despite her professional background. The disaster tourist label has followed her since the LA fire relief efforts, when she showed up to devastated neighborhoods in designer clothes for what critics dismissed as elaborate photo opportunities. Hugging her own Archwell employees for the cameras while actual victims struggled nearby created exactly the kind of optics that fuel accusations of performative compassion. The Humanitarian of the Year sarcasm writes itself, when the humanitarian seems more interested in being photographed than in actually helping. Some observers believe that genuine authenticity might actually save her at this point. If she dropped the mask entirely and revealed her true self, flaws and all, it would be highly entertaining entertaining and possibly even endearing. The public can forgive almost anything except inauthenticity. But Meghan seems constitutionally incapable of that kind of vulnerability, too invested in the perfect image to risk letting anyone see what lies beneath the polished surface. The situation with her father has perhaps timed out any remaining opportunity for rehabilitation. That relationship has become symbolic of everything people distrust about her character. What does all of this mean for the future of the Sussex brand? The verdict is becoming impossible to ignore. This is not random mockery from anonymous internet trolls or distant British tabloids. This is Meghan Markle's own community rendering judgment on her character, her brand, and her entire carefully constructed persona. The people who live near her, shop at the same boutiques, and move through the same social circles have collectively decided that she represents everything wrong with celebrity culture. Villain of the Year is not just a cheeky window display title. It is a cultural verdict delivered by the jury that matters most to her ambitions. The trajectory from royal bride to Hollywood pariah has taken barely 6 years. In 2018, she was the American actress who captured a prince's heart, a fairy tale that captivated the entire world. Millions watched her wedding, cheered her entrance into the royal family, and wished her nothing but happiness. Today, she cannot even maintain credibility in her own neighborhood. The fall has been as spectacular as it has been self-inflicted. Every accusation in that Kitson display traces back to choices Meghan herself made. She chose to preach environmental responsibility while taking private jets. She chose to advocate for the underprivileged while flaunting $82,000 in jewelry. She chose to film content about family togetherness while ignoring her own father's medical emergencies. She chose to position herself as relatable while living behind security gates in a mansion most people could never afford. The hypocrisy is not manufactured by critics. It is documented by her own actions. Her business partners are abandoning ship with increasing speed. Netflix will not carry her products. Her website traffic is collapsing. Her pop-up shops generate more controversy than sales. The holiday season that was supposed to rescue as ever has instead confirmed its failure. Even the celebrity friends who once vouched for her are either distancing themselves or ending up in hypocrisy displays alongside her. The Sussex brand has become toxic in ways that seemed unimaginable just a few years ago. The ultimate irony is almost too perfect. Meghan left the royal family because she felt trapped, unappreciated, and unfairly criticized. She came to Hollywood expecting the entertainment industry to embrace her as the star she always believed herself to be. Instead, she has found rejection even more complete than anything she experienced in Britain. At least the royal family kept their criticisms private. Hollywood puts them in window displays on Robertson Boulevard. Whether she can recover from this level of local rejection remains an open question. Some celebrities have rehabilitated worse reputations, but they typically possessed self-awareness Meghan has never demonstrated. Redemption requires acknowledging mistakes, and she has shown zero willingness to admit fault for anything. The victim narrative has been her shield for so long that abandoning it now might feel impossible. One thing is certain: the Duchess of Sussex wanted to be Hollywood royalty. Instead, she has been crowned its villain. That title might be the most honest recognition she has ever received. Drop your thoughts below. Do you think Meghan can ever recover from becoming a joke in her own backyard? Like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you will not believe what is coming next.